Didik TV KPM.
Hello my friends, you are back with us on Sukses STPM 2021 Pecutan on Didik TV KPM. So today we are learning the tips and tricks to maximize our score and definitely to score A for Physics Paper 3. And with me is Cikgu Hussaini. And Cikgu, I believe now we will talk about qualitative questions, how to answer them, how to score them.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, candidates. Okay, now let's look at the qualitative questions, what mostly involving the comprehensive type of questions. Okay, but before I go further, let's look at the report on candidates' work, which is done by MPM. Okay, so from the report that you can get it from the MPM portal. The answering many candidates, okay, answering using related physics law and principles, but okay, some candidates not able to describe the formation of maximum and minimum intensities. This is based on the Physics 3 paper in 2020. But I would like to emphasize that some students, okay, they have a problem in answering questions which start with describe. And number two, we see that some candidates wrongly describe the production of continuous H3. Okay, and we also can see that some candidates not able to explain the change in the resolving power and also mistakenly state the difference between electromagnetic wave and mechanical wave. So let's look at how we can rectify all the mistakes here. So firstly, let's look at what are the common type of questions in qualitative. We have questions that ask candidate to define the concept, distinguish or differentiate, describe a phenomena or a process, and explaining the concept. So let's look one by one. So here I have examples of questions which start with define. For example here, question A, define the intensity of sound. Question B, state the definition of the intensity of sound. It's look like similar, but look carefully that the second questions start with the word state. So let's see what is the difference between question A and also question B. Now, I will show you the examples of answer for question A. Okay. For example, maybe candidates may answer in this way: intensity of sound is defined as the rate of energy received per unit area which is perpendicular to the directions of the sound. Or some candidates, they may write their answer in this way: intensity of sound is defined as I per E per T per A, where I is the intensity of the sound, E per T is the rate of energy received at the point, and A is the area which is perpendicular to the directions of the sound. Now, so the second answer is written based on the definitions, based on the equations of the intensity of sound. Okay, let's see. So, actually, both answers are acceptable when the question starts with define the intensity. Okay, so candidates can construct your answers, okay, in both ways. Okay, but let's see what happens if the question starts with the word state. State the definition of the intensity of sound, where students may answer this in the same two ways. Okay, in the same ways here, but carefully that for this kind of questions, the second answer where using the the equations of the intensity is not accepted because it does not meet the requirement of the questions. Remember, the questions ask you to state. So you have to state it. You kena nyatakan, awak kena nyatakan apakah yang dimasukkan ataupun definisi intensity itu. Okay? Okay. So please look carefully. Okay? Both questions look like similar, but it has slightly difference. Okay? So remember, if the question start with state, so do not use the equation to write your definitions. Okay? So let's look at the other questions. Okay? Differentiate or distinguish. Okay. Now I have two questions here. Okay? Differentiate between excitation energy and ionization energy. And question B, differentiate between continuous spectrum and characteristic line spectrum of X-rays. Okay, let's see the example of answer that could be written by the candidates. Okay, let's see the first question. Excitation energy is the energy required to excite an atom, while ionization energy is energy required to ionize an atom. Okay, please look. Let's look at another example of answer that the candidate may construct or may give. Ionization's energy is higher. Ionization energy can cause an electron to escape from the atom. Now look carefully. In the first answer, if you do notice that this candidate just repeat the term used in the questions. Excitation energy is the energy required to excite the atom. So he just repeat the words, okay? And while ionization energy is the energy required to ionize the atom. So again, he repeat the words used, okay? So please, candidate, okay, this kind of answer actually is not accepted since it does not reflect your understanding in this topic, okay? Let's look at the second options, or the second type of answers, okay? Ionization's energy is higher. Ionization energy can cause an electron to escape from the atom. Now, look carefully that in this answer, actually, this candidate does not answering the question. It does not meet the requirement of the questions. Okay, this candidate does not, show the difference between the excitation energy and also the ionization energy, but it just elaborate what the excitation energy and the ionization energy are. Okay, as a result, so this kind of answer also is not accepted. Okay, let's look at, maybe we can see another options. Okay, now look at this answer. Excitation energy is the energy required to move up. Instead of he used back the term used in the question, excite. So this candidate change it to another terms or another words, which is move up. An electron from a lower energy level to a higher energy level, while ionization energy is the energy required by an electron in the lowest energy level to escape completely from the atom. So this is another tip that I would like to share. Please do not repeat the term which is used in the question. Okay, so this is examples of a good answers. Okay, let's look at another options. Continuous spectrum is produced due to the deceleration of energetic electrons while bombarding the target atoms, while characteristics line spectrum is produced due to the transition of electrons in the inner shell. So clearly that we can see there are two difference. There is a difference between continuous spectrum and characteristic line spectrum. And that is why this answer is considered a good answer. Okay? Okay, so next, we have a question that asks students to describe. Okay, I have two questions here, but let's look at the answer for the first question. Okay, now look at these answers. Okay, transition of electron in the hot gas atom cause emission. Various types of electromagnetic waves are released from the hot gas atoms. The grating will diffract different frequency at different angles. Each diffracted frequency will form a number of bright lines on the screen. Now, for your information, these answers combining about 2 or 3 different process. So actually, it is the candidate does not elaborate the process or describe the process clearly. Okay, so and because of that, okay, this answer actually is not true, or this cannot be accepted. Okay, okay, clearly. So make sure that when we describe, usually describe question is used for describing a process or a phenomenon. Okay, let's look at the mistake that may done by this candidate. Okay, number one, there are two processes that I mentioned just now. One is about the transition of electrons in the hot gas, and number two is the use of grating, which actually is about two different activities. Okay, okay. Maybe we can see the examples of a good answers. Okay, okay. See, it starts with to tell that what happened at the beginning. When the hot gas atom absorbs the energy during collisions between the atoms because the gas is hot. So what happened next is the energy received by the atoms causes the electrons in lower energy levels to transit to the different and higher energy levels. Okay, in order to achieve more stable state, the excited electrons drop to different lower energy levels. The transition of the electron causes photons of different wavelength to be emitted and produce the line spectrum. So if you look at these answers, so it arrange the point very well, step by step, and very systematic. Okay, so this can be the examples of a good answer. Right, let's look at the question B. Describe the generation of nuclear energy due to fusion process that occurs in the sun. So let's look at this suggested answer. Nuclear fusion would only occur in the small nuclei have sufficient kinetic energy to overcome the repulsion between two positively charged nuclei. In the sun, the nuclei could have high energy. Therefore, fusions are able to occur. Hence, nuclear energy is produced in the sun. So, guess whether this is a good or not good answer. Now, let's see why this answer is not accepted. Look at the questions carefully. The questions ask the candidates to describe the process. But this answer, this candidate, it is more to reasoning or justifications why the nuclear fusions occur in the suns. So please be careful with the answers that you arrange. So now let's look at the answer that may be considered as a good answer. In the sun, hydrogen atoms have sufficiently high kinetic energy. The hydrogen atoms are able to overcome the repulsive electrostatic force between the two positively charged nuclei and fuse to form helium atoms. So that is a process. During the fusion, some of the mass is converted into the energy. Okay, can you see the difference between the first answer and this answer? Okay, so make sure if you are asked to describe a process, so do not justify it. Okay, just describe it step by step. Okay, so let's look at the last question, which is explain type questions. I have one question here. Explain why, after the light passes through a first Polaroid, the intensity of the light is half of its original value, even though the amplitude of the electric component of light before and after passing through the first Polaroid is the same. So it's quite challenging. So let's see the suggested answer. Now look how we justify why the intensity is half even though the amplitude is unchanged. Before passing through a Polaroid, the intensity of light equals the sum of intensity of all electric field oscillation in various planes. But after passing the Polaroid, only the electric field oscillations that is parallel to the polarization axis of the Polaroid is transmitted. Even though the amplitude is not changed, the intensity of the polarized light reduced to half because it equals to the intensity of single oscillations. So if you do realize that in this answer, they give the justifications on why the intensity is half and not equals to the intensity of the light before it passed through the Polaroid. So that is what I would like to share about how candidates could arrange the answer properly according to the questions asked.
Right, I think that's very important. And those keywords, we have to always keep in mind things like state, define, distinguish, differentiate, as well as explain, ya. Kena betul-betul faham kata kunci dalam soalan tersebut untuk menjawab keinginan soalan supaya dapat markah penuh, ya. We're going to take a short break and please stay tuned with us because we have a lot more to explore for Physics Paper 3 on Sukses STPM 2021 Didik TV KPM.
Didik TV KPM